Hi, everyone. It's John Galante, president of AE Ventures, here with Builder Innovator. I'm going to call this an ad hoc webcast. Ad hoc is Latin. It means to this. Did you know that? I don't know if you knew that. I am joined by absolutely one of my favorite people in the home building industry, Jennifer Cooper, who is the president of Evolution Marketing. And she's one of my favorite people for a lot of reasons. She has the best smile in the industry. There's no question. Beyond that, she is so smart about so many things, okay? It says Evolution Marketing. She knows a hell of a lot about marketing. She's just like right on the cutting edge, but practical. When I have a conversation with Jennifer about marketing or anything, there's all these different perspectives and all this different expertise that comes to the fore, along with the greatest smile in the industry. Let's just jump into this. I'm gonna do a little setup, and then Jennifer's gonna take it for a whirl, and we'll just do some back and forth. So these are some slides here that I'm gonna walk through that are from the Zillow new construction consumer research report from last year. And there's some things that I highlighted here. Energy efficient piece, which I would say is one of the pillars of high performance homes, has certainly risen in the mindset of the buyer as an important factor. I just think people are looking to save money on energy, right? Because they don't have that much money to spend on the house, so they want to save money on energy. Features growing in popularity since the pandemic. So these first two here are about, I call it rent tech. And when you look at rent tech, it is a lot of security stuff. It's keyless locks, it's surveillance, it's remote monitoring. So it actually is a piece in terms of the actual products themselves, with the third item here, which is smart homes. This is a 35-year blood siege that I've been fighting with builders on smart home, connected home, whatever the heck you want to call it. But like this jump that we're seeing in terms of the buyer demand doubling basically from 2019 to 2023 is really exciting to see. This is just a little bit of a refined look on this, and it's generationally, and it's talking about what the future is, right? Like, so we all know Gen Y and Gen Z are the future of home buying. Baby boomers like me, we're good for you 55 plus builders and other folks, but this is the future. And the future is even more so decidedly interested in those smart home capabilities and the rent tech capabilities than the older generations who are not going to be your prime buyers in the future. So I think that's important to know. So this is one of, now we have someone on our team. His name is Colin Cocaine, and he did a post on LinkedIn that talked about how he got kicked off of Instagram because of his last name. But like, he did a post that was AI written, and he got 500,000 impressions. And I don't know how many likes and comments and stuff. But for me, 2,500 impressions is a lot. And I got them on this post, and it's actually the origin of this webcast, which was, I was looking for DR Horton's annual report or quarterly report, and I went to their webpage and I noticed smart home is on the nav bar. Not only is it on the nav bar, it's the only feature specific thing on the nav bar at the DR Horton homepage. So for me, having been part of this battle for 35 years to get smart home lifted up with builders, to see the number one builder with 90,000 closings and $32 billion in annual revenues putting smart home in their nav bar, it marked a moment for me. I think there's so much more that builders can do to play on smart home and high performance home to bring it above the fold, so to speak, and create lift. Jennifer and I had a conversation about this, and it's like, how can we help builders do that, right? Now that the moment has arrived, the demand is there, and the 800-pound gorilla has said it's a top feature. How do we help more builders understand from a strategy and tactics standpoint how they're going to create that lift in the sell through.
Well, I love this post because you posted it. Then I had commentary on it, and that actually is what led to this podcast conversation. So, never underestimate putting a thought or an idea out there and not having it run into something bigger. And, you're right. Smart home technically or typically has been buried in a drop down. D.R. Horton or Lennar, one of the big guys, do something different. That's when you do start to get the other builders looking, watching, and go, well, we need to be doing that too. I love this topic. To go back, I really encourage home builders to be watching the multifamily market. Why? Because that's where our younger cohorts are starting their new living situations when they leave the nest, right? The minute they walk out of those apartments and they're ready to go buy a home, their expectations are, if the multifamily industry, which is usually a few leaps and bounds ahead in terms of what we're always offering in single family, if they're offering something just in my apartment, community, atmosphere, or home, I'm going to take those specs and now absolutely expect it if I'm buying it. So watch that, because we're breeding new expectations, not only by them, coming into the market, but multifamily is looking to be cool, tech, what's next, faster than we're developing it in our communities. And, about 7 or 8 years ago, I started to try to launch some of these concepts around tech with other builders, and the market just wasn't, the housing market wasn't ready for it, and the consumer wasn't necessarily expecting it quite yet. They just we're not there, and we're getting there now.
The right timing has a lot of things happen, right? One of the things that happened was companies like ADT figured out how to make more recurring revenue on home automation and smart home than they used to get on alarm system. And then a bunch of cable TV, internet service providers who used to be cable TV providers needed new revenue sources, and they jumped on it. So the consumer understanding with these multi-billion-dollar players who spend so much on advertising just shot up, right? And before it was like we had to explain what this stuff is before anybody even bought it. Now there's just a great threshold of understanding.
Yeah. And I'll say definitely in the last, I kind of feel like it's a post-pandemic. We don't use that term anymore. I feel like we're all over that. But that's when the shift started to happen, that we realized how much technology is important to us, how it started changing. All of a sudden, builders are like, we need to really focus on how does the home office work, because that started to change. Now, not everybody's gone back to work. So connectivity, how does my home work for me, actually work for me, right? In different ways. There's just a different light on it. Technology is moving so quickly. It really is. We're at just a shift of how will our homes perform for us different. I think as a result of that post-pandemic conversation, it's still there. It's just now changing how we're looking at all these wants and needs. To kind of highlight some of the areas we're going to talk about specifically is home tech is a new Sizzle, and there's an opportunity to sell it. A lot of builders, some are offering it as smart home, as we've seen with D.R. Horton saying this is going to be a built-in competitive, advantage. It's talking about how can you differentiate. We're always, as home builders, regardless of who I've worked with, looking for, it's not just the bricks and sticks. Is it the process? Is it the quality? Is it the design? Is it the location? It should be a little bit of all of that, right? That we're looking for. But now we can start to say, how are we differentiating ourselves with the things that you want the house to perform?
This is a marketing focused webcast that we're talking about. So things like differentiation and getting attraction and then driving through to yes are important. But an important thing for builders to understand right now about home technology and smart home is you can make money on it. It used to be just a differentiator, it used to be competitive, but there's actually a whole cohort of trade partners and vendors who will help this be a profitable category for you.
Correct. I mean, there's a couple different ways of it. one, builders aren't going to put anything in the house that they aren't going to make some kind of margin. So we know that's already, a thing. So thinking about how they can put it in the home, figuring out how to cost model it is one thing. But then, in the example of some of these smart home packages and things that I'm going to show you here in a second, you can create something that's just a base model, just like you would for any of your design, fit, and finish. This is included, but then there's the opportunity to upgrade. And where those upgrades are, there's the profit sharing and the opportunity to work with that vendor on what is that model to receive that additional revenue if someone wants to upgrade.
This isn't different than a lot of other options and upgrades, right? You sell it through independent design centers out on the West Coast. The independent design centers developing the offer, consulting with the client, making the sale, and then they're handling the installation, right? Like, so it can be almost semi aftermarket in terms of muss and fuss for the builder and profitability.
Really, you're right. It's not any different than going to design center and saying, I don't want the carpet with this small low grade pile. I want something a little thicker, a little more luxurious. Okay, you're going to build that in and you're going to install it anyways. Great. Same thing with home tech. I don't want just fancy light switches. I want dimmable light switches, right? You're going to put them in anyways? Great. What's that extra cost? So some of the other things, just, kind of staying on the slide, like you mentioned, home safety and tech are some of the new expects. So how are we going to keep the home safe? And, and everything that we do, really, we have this connected, we know this is our sidekick throughout our days. And so that those younger buyers are expecting everything to have apps, to connect their house to their apps. Nowadays, even I with my family, we're watching the cameras. We had an accident happen outside our house and we had to pull up that footage, or we left for the airport and we closed the garage. We're just becoming these new, hyper fixated, technology fixated families that need these things. And home builders thinking through all of that ahead of time just makes you go, okay, you get me, you understand my family. Another reason to connect with this builder. Also, we've got this Amazon lifestyle. Maybe it's just me, I doubt it, where everything's being delivered. So you see home builders are even thinking about creating very special like lock and leave areas for storage and things. I think that's super smart when they're thinking about that. But if it's not built into their product, how are we at least putting in the technology to make sure that those packages are safe? So it's a super, super important thing to be thinking all the different ways that our homes can do the thinking for the home buyer. This is an example of one product that I rolled out with a various builder with Stone Martin Builders. Is we had partnered with Deco Lighting on creating their package for their smart switches and smart plugs throughout the house. And so that was, one, they wanted to offer better technology. They wanted to improve their product, but two, they really wanted to come in and give the buyer more choice. So this was a conversation that isn't just marketing, and yes, I am a marketing expert, but I love to drill into all areas of the operations of the company, because you can't market it good unless you understand how, why, and what you're buying, and you have to dig into the business. So digging into the business, they have this value proposition that how they wanted to differentiate. They already had their eye on what D.R. Horton was doing, which was super smart. And they said, we want to differentiate too. So it started from the top, having this deep desire. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we build in, what we sell, what we market. Leadership has to believe in what they're going to spend some time and put some attention to put that into your communications. So they wanted to differentiate, they wanted to compete, and they wanted to have superior product and choice for their customers. So they went ahead and put this program in. So for them, they were like, there really wasn't a loss of cost or anything to switch out from the different switches. But what they had the opportunity now to also do was offer the customer a way of elevating their experience in the home and to increase those revenue opportunities with packages that they could purchase to upgrade outside of like what's included. Because you may not just want 10 plugs, smart plugs, you might want 20. You got a big family, you got a big 3,000 plus square foot house, you need more. And so they were finding that by offering those packages, there was another opportunity to delight the buyer and have some of those increased upgraded revenue streams. What we particularly did with this program is we then created not just the marketing package, but we also thought through the installation. and how this was going to be installed easily for the customer. So there was also an install partner that would come in and say, once you've signed on the contract, you've purchased the included plus the upgrade. We also worked on the program and how it was going to be installed. So anything a builder puts in, it's really important to think through the whole scope of how you're going to deliver that to the customer. Because 5, 6, 7 years ago, when we were trying to, with another builder, launch a similar program, we struggled with having the right installation process and program, which meant the take rate of all of those things. We just realized it wasn't getting used. And then it felt like the program was kind of evaporating. We weren't seeing the return on the use and the interest and the conversations around how we elevate it because we didn't have the installation side. So it's really important to just not have the idea and the marketing. How do you deliver it and really capture that the experiences are working in those packages? And then you're also getting the revenue.
Yeah, and you got to pick the right architecture and the products. And Deco has that universal wall plate or wall. It can easily switch out a dumb switch for a smart switch. So it goes back to the vendor selection too.
Yeah. So what we did in this instance, more to further just explain the slide, is we decided to go in and create actual moods and themes in the room. So thinking again, how does the house perform for the family? Not just that I'm coming in and turning on a switch, or I'm going to make my husband go and change everything to these cumbersome, dimmer switches, but the house is going to come made this way. And you can create Alexa, working with Alexa or one of the similar technologies out there. This one worked with Alexa devices, but we created stories and themes around movie night. Hey, Alexa, turn the lights down to story time in my daughter's bedroom, or it's cooking. We just got home. Turn it up. Turn up the lights. And so we created signs around the home, talking to these fun themes, programming the Alexas so that they could go in and see how the home would start to literally feel. It evokes a different emotion when you're modifying the light. So that became what I would call silent signage, right? You're silently telling the customer to do something. It's not gaudy. It's not a voice is coming in and telling you to do something. And you're now interacting with the home the same way that you would purchase it.
If the scenes were built into the model homes, were you able to demonstrate them there? Okay.
Yes, that's what these little, I call them pucks, were on the right side of the screen here. So those were placed in each home, whether it was in a great room or a kitchen.
So these are the instructions to I won't say her name because she might be listening in here somewhere, but these are the words that you say to her to get those scenarios to come out. And
yeah, so that you could actually product test what was being put into the home. And then when I'm going home, I'm also getting a flyer or a digital flyer on how the home connected. And then we branded the program for them as Home Connected by Stone Martin Builders. Keeping the silent signage going. I think the silent signage has been a little bit of a key thing that I've brought to some builders at any level of demonstration. Is they're looking around and they're visually figuring out, why does this house work for me? What are the features? So if we don't add some sort of call outs or interactivity in the house when they're modeling, when they're shopping a model by themselves, and now with self-touring, this is happening even more. This is the next wave, this kind of on-demand demonstration. How is the house going to tell you that we are offering, a new and improved energy efficient HVAC, or we have this amazing water filtration system or clean air system? We've got to be able to demonstrate it with or without a salesperson. This is not a conversation of sales going away. They're not. But the house and the way that we're marketing homes is changing. It is evolving. So just thinking through, again, putting in some of that signage and detail about what's behind the walls, what's going in here, how much energy am I saving? Just to say the house saves energy. And with one of my builders, we calculated it and created our first ratings and our average savings for that home and put it at the front door. You're walking in this house compared to an average built house without some of these efficiencies might save you $100 a month. That's interesting, and you don't have to have someone telling you it. You can read it on the wall.
We talked a little bit before we went on with this, just the, see it, touch it, buy it options. And then these other areas that require some explanation and education along the way. And a lot of them are behind the walls and in the basement and that sort of thing. And they're not, in people's face on the first walkthrough of the home. So to be able to do some of the storytelling with visual merchandising aids like this makes a whole lot of sense.
On the flip side of it, if you get your sales teams also as excited about what's behind the walls down to these pieces, and they're really demonstrating or really talking about it versus, hey, I'm Joe. Yeah, our houses are energy efficient. Take a look. There's like stuff you can play in there and come back and let me know what you think. You just give that salesperson so many more tools and cool things to talk about. That's going to be a memorable experience and a reason that I'm going to come back.
And what does that look like tactically for a builder?
Yeah, it's train, reinforce, rinse, and repeat. Like you've got to do it multiple times. Several of the programs that I've rolled out, you send it to sales, and it's like this first, like, okay, cool, that's coming. Okay, oh, and now it's installed in my model. Okay, how did that work again? Okay, what are the value points of that? Okay, let's go back. Now that I've been trying to sell it or talking about it, I'm getting questions. I don't quite understand the answers, right? So there's some stumbling. If you do not educate, role play, try it, play with it, understand it, and do some of that repeating before you launch the program, you'll have that stumbling on anything you launch.
What about the vendors helping on that front? Like I like to tell vendors when they go to a trade show, what they should do is use the sales and marketing aid that would be in the builder selling environments to talk through their products. So it's like, because I believe that helping the builder sell and market these more advanced features is critical to them being winners.
Absolutely. And it's again, that's setting the expectation really at the forefront of the partnership for whatever product that you're putting in. That would be a question I would bring to the table from the sales and marketing standpoint is what materials do you have to educate our sales team on this process and product? And then two, what level of support will you have available to train and then continually train, and what resources then, because sales teams turn over, we have that in any builder, with new people coming on, and we get the first 20, and then by the end of the year, we've had 5 people leave and 5 new people. How do we continue to build that training program? I will say with the Deco team, just to continue to use that example, they were great. Their sales team was coming in to market and meeting with the team, and we were holding webinars, and there was a lot, and marketing's very involved in that because they're helping set up the training. And then it's really then on the sales management side to be quizzing, role playing, seeing what questions are coming up, talking out the rollout strategy, and then everybody understanding what are those marketing pieces I'm going to have, because the customer still might walk away. When it comes to technology, some people can still feel very overwhelmed with it, so they still need that tangible piece. So moving on is some other ways to think about when you're creating any marketing or communications around any of the features that you want to sell that are smart, or the technology, or improving the health of the home is super important. Think about how that story happens even outside of the model. That gives us other talking points, even as we're driving into a community and to create some of that curiosity. What is it that's different? So some other forms of just signage that I've done, and these were a few years ago, just in some communities, we're not so much about we have 4 floor plans, or we're from the 500s, or whatever the typical messages are, but we're just talking about some of those key features as you're driving around a corner. And we didn't even have any models at that point in that location, but we're just getting people to think like we're offering these smarter designs, we're offering efficiency layouts, just using different words to describe our competitive advantage, and to get them curious so that they would come into the sales office and try to understand that. So another way is playfully think about how you're putting in, not just with those Alexas, but thinking through those silent signage opportunities to sell a feature all throughout the home, or even just along pathways, walking from your parking lot to your model. You're constantly enforcing, I am a different builder. We are offering a superior product or something that you haven't thought about. So just this particular example was playfully using, playing off of more value per square foot. It had been a tagline of this company for years. We modified the tagline, but we were like, there still is more value, and we pay this off through how we're personalizing, how we're creating more of that technology envy, how we're creating smarter spaces that are not just smart in how they configure and flex, but what they're offering in terms of those home health and tech.
Foundationally, so many of these concepts seem to be about new versus used, right? Without being pedestrian about it, you are calling out the particular advantages of new versus used and planting that stuff early in the buyer's mind.
There's definitely some psychology behind psychology of the sell, right? Psychology of where your brand is saying.
There's psychology and there's metrics. It's like, that's our biggest competitor, right? We say it over and over again. It's not the other builder. It's the 9 out of 10 homes that resale homes that are bought. We've had better market share because there hasn't been enough resale available, but that's all ironing out. And we still need to win the new versus used battle. And this sort of stuff helps.
So another area that I love to kind of going back to that sales conversation, it is all about the demonstration and how you can demonstrate every square inch of the home. And this really goes down to your builder's philosophy on how much work does the sales team do when you're hiring people. What is their level of passion to really dig into those details? But it comes down to some basics of how our sales teams demonstrating how the home sits on the home site. So thinking through how we're going to demonstrate anything that is an upgrade, an add, or goes above and beyond the bricks and sticks is super.
And it's not all one thing, right, Jen? Like, what does it really mean to offer energy efficiency? So like, we could just say those words and like, does the buyer think it's going to be 5% more efficient? Or is it going to be way more efficient? We need to have the information. We need to have the data points to make that differential clear to the buyer. Or like, and then the flip side of this is like, you got the healthy home offer, and like, whenever we do the indoor air quality, it's like a list of 7,000 allergens and like ASHRAE 60. It's very technical when we need to make it very emotional. It's health and well-being. And so like, we have to talk about what is good air quality, what's stale air versus fresh air. So I wish it was one answer. We could just say like, hey, let's do it all with numbers, or let's do it all with emotion, but it's kind of different things at different times.
Yeah. And that all comes down to building a relationship with your customer, right? Question could be, does anybody in the family have any allergies, right? Oh, well, my son struggles with pine or something outdoors. Well, great. Did you know that with filtration systems like this, it's filtering 10 of the top tree pollutants? Hey, I'm just making something up. But it gives you the opportunity to go deeper with the buyer to understand if they have a concern and if that's an area you could really feature. Or are they more concerned about energy savings and you're living on desert climate and you understand how the home is insulated to save money on those AC features, right? So it gives you the opportunity to connect with your buyer, drill deeper into their lifestyle. And then if you understand the product's benefits, the true benefits, you're now going to connect in a deeper conversation. Then we have a home filtration system and we offer energy efficiency. We're a great builder, right? Your salesperson gets to be the knowledge spokesperson for everything, not just salesperson, but spokesperson, educator, relationship builder on all of the features that we're all pouring all this money in and time and effort into, that they have to get the right training. You've got to get the right people, and you have to enforce your experience to really differentiate. So demonstrate, your model home strategies. And John, I don't know if there's any particular area you wanted to specifically dive in. It can be very broad in terms of other ways that you can have the model home demonstrate.
I don't know whether you could speak to self-guided being part of this equation, because I've been banging the drum on self-guided plus smart being, extremely synergistic. That if you could build in, automations when somebody walks in and the home is booted up. We still are a long way from getting smart home right in model homes, I would say.
I have a couple comments on there. Smart home, it's now is the time to be thinking. It will be an expect. It's not, do you offer it? You offer it, right? It's going to be another expect. And we're seeing, Ring doorbells more people are starting to do. But to one, build the program, understand how it differentiates, and build your roadmap for other technology you're watching. Every year we go to IBS, is there something new coming out that the consumer is going to want, a couple of years down the line that you need to start planning for? We know this industry takes a while to do that. So start looking at what that plan is. Now, it's got to come from the top, right? Like any implementation, I'm just saying it's not just marketing saying you should do it, or someone in purchasing says this is cool. You need to know why you're doing it as a builder, and it needs to just be, it's one of our features, it's one of our standards. From the modeling experience, yes, the customer is wanting more self-on-demand experience. So I thought about this the other day. My son always wants to go into the Tesla store at the mall. We have one here in Denver. And I observed that every time I go in there, I never have somebody come up at one. I'm not buying one. My husband, well, that's another story. But we're not buying one. But nobody ever comes up to me and asks me anything, because you've got displays, you've got the car, you can touch and feel. There's a lot of information in there. So I can explore to enough of a level to see, am I ready to have that conversation? And I think we have to think about that with self-touring, that the customer, just like I might search online, I might go to your website 20 times until I decide, all right, I really do like this builder. I like what they have to see. I'm going to come in and make
people just don't like people as much as they used to. Let's just call a spade a spade.
Yeah, right. So I need to be able to self-tour. I need to be able to get the education that I want through the home. I'm trained up as much as I can with what you gave me. You gave me the keys to the kingdom. I came in, I heard, I saw, I immersed myself in your model on an hour that all of your team was sleeping, and I'm ready. Why would we not offer that to the buyer?
The place where, from a technology perspective, I think it's really important to show a fully merchandised room is work from home. Like, you've got to pick the furniture that goes with the room design, that goes with tech at some level, to really show the buyer, who's going to maybe either hybrid or full-time be working from home, that they're going to have a great environment to be in.
Yeah, the word immersive, right? As much as I can, even walking into, there's a lot of flex spaces where we have hybrid. You're working from home part-time, but your part-time office may also be part-time where your kiddos hang out. If there's like a hangout couch that's where they're doing homework, and it's hybrid based off of your size family and size of home. That's where some of that silent signage or props with interacting with things start to give the buyer. Again, we walk in, we see, we smell, we hear. We're putting together messages without even conversation of how this house is going to work for me immediately as we walk in. So all of that, you got to stage it. You've got to stage it to fully sell it.
Hey, we got to get out of here. We're going to get in trouble with Davlam. So why don't you go to your last slide? evolutionmarketingco.com is your website, right? And you can help people strategize, tech. What can you do? You could do a lot of things. What's the best way to get started, at least talking to you about it?
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity. Go to my website, evolutionmarketingco.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and if we're connected, or if you'd like to connect and message me there, that's always a quick way too. But I do have a form on my website, and then we can look at your product. I am a fractional CMO for home builders, and then I've got a team of strategists that we also will come in and look at holistically your marketing strategies. Onboarding a program such as this is one of my passion areas. Again, that's a differentiation. And then we can look at how we can come in and advise, help your team, or look for some of the missing gaps in your overall strategies.